I'm Chuck Fossler, and I've taken over for Dave Dargitz as the study lead for the NAMS cow-calf study that started back in October. And first off, I wanted to thank you all for the work that you do for NAMS, and we couldn't do these studies without your help, so we appreciate all the work that you do. For the cow-calf study, one of the incentives that we're offering is to take a forage sample and test it for nutrient content. This is going to be done free of charge to the producer. And today I'm going to be showing you how to take a forage sample. So we're going to be distributing 3 forage probes per state to be used in forage sampling. And the probes are designed to be used with a drill, a cordless drill or an electric drill. And I first off wanted to emphasize that if you don't have a forage probe and you don't have a drill, then you shouldn't be taking a sample because it's not going to be representative of the nutrient content of the bales of hay. So that's the first thing, that you need a probe and you need a drill in order to take a sample. I mean, you might think that you can pull out like loose hay from the top of the bales like this, but again, this isn't a very representative sample of the bale. You really need to get a core through the bale, and that'll give you an idea of the nutrient content of the bale. The other thing you need to know is when you get to the operation, if the producer wants to have a forage sample tested, you need to ask him what forage that he wants tested. The forage needs to be from the same field and the same cutting number. So all the bales you sample need to be from the same field and cutting number. For example, like second cutting or second crop of alfalfa from a particular field. And so you'll need to ask the producer where bales from that field and cutting number are located. Each sample should consist of 12 or more cores from the bales. And you're going to be dealing with lots of different scenarios. You could be sampling bales from a 10-acre hayfield or a 200-acre hayfield, or it could be even from a waterway. So there's going to be lots of different numbers of bales from that field and cutting number. So you'll need to decide how to take a representative sample of those bales based on how many there are. And each core sample should preferably be from a different bale. And we are supplying you with what's known as the Penn State Forage Sampler. This has a cutting end and an end that attaches to the drill, and it has a dowel for forcing the hay out after each sample. After each sample, you need to disconnect it from the drill and take off the end. The end, when you first get it, this spring clip is kind of stiff and it's a little hard to get off, but it gets better as it gets used more. And then to force the sample out, you push the dowel down and it comes out this end. This is the end that attaches to the drill. When you first get them, this is very smooth. As you can see, the drill will cut some grooves in it, similar to that. And so in order to use this, you'll need a 1/2-inch drill. 1/2-inch drill means that when the opening for the bit is open to the widest part, the diameter is a 1/2 inch across. And you'll need that. A 1/4-inch drill wouldn't work with this because this is more than a 1/4 inch in diameter. And so it's so you would tighten it like so. And you'll want to make sure that the drill is in the forward position. And when it's in the forward position, as I'm looking at it, it's going clockwise. Usually a drill will have a button like this. One way will be forward and the other way will be reverse. So you want it in the forward position when you start drilling. And one thing to note about these probes is that These teeth are kind of fragile. If you drop these on a hard surface, you can break them. So try to be careful and not drop them. So we'll move on to taking a sample. I highly recommend that you have a pail. It's going to be a lot easier to unload the forage probe if you have a pail. Most home stores will sell 5-gallon pails for $3 a piece. That's where I got this. I got this at Lowe's. It's $3. But I, again, highly recommend this because it's going to be a lot easier to unload the sample using this. And so I'll move on to showing how to take a core sample. On round bales, probably big round bales are probably what you're going to encounter the most. Some farms will have small square bales and some will have large square bales. A little later we're going to go and take a sample from a large square bale to show you how to get a sample from one of those. But on a round bale, you want to sample the curved part of the bale. You don't want to do the end, you want the curved part. And so in order to take a sample, round bales are going to be, you're going to encounter lots of different types. Some will just have twine around it. Some will have kind of a netting. That's what this has. You can see there's a netting in here. And others, you might encounter some that are wrapped in plastic on the curved part of the bale. If it's wrapped in plastic, you're going to have to go through the plastic in order to get a sample. On one like this, you can kind of move the twine out of the way so that you're just going into the hay, like so. And so when you get ready to drill, you press the trigger and then you reverse. Like I said, you'll need to remove the probe each time, and because this is metal, the friction of drilling in is going to make this get hot. So I recommend that you wear a pair of gloves when you're doing this. It can be easier to get this thing open if you have a pen, or maybe I'm using a punch. And to unload the probe, you push the dowel in on the cutting end and force it out into the pail. So that's one sample, and like I said, we want you to take 12 cores, or sorry, this was one core. We want you to take 12 cores to get an adequate sample. And some hay is going to be easier to drill into than others. I found that alfalfa is easier to drill in than grass hay. What I'm drilling into here is grass hay. And ideally, I might go one bale over and do every other one in this line, but because we're dealing with a situation where we don't have very good light back in there, I'm going to stick with this bale and do the ones that have good light. So again, it's the same procedure. Make sure the drill is in the right forward or reverse. If the hay's really dry, it might start to fall out when you pull this end out. So that's core number 2. And this is core number 12. So those are all the cores that we need to take. And so this is how much hay 12 cores made up. Comes up to about here on the pail. So the next step is to we're having you put the samples in a quart-sized bag, and it will have it should have the label pre-attached when you get it. I haven't put the label on the bag yet. This isn't the type of bag you're going to get. This is one I brought from home. The type you get won't have the right-on label like this. But, so the label will have the kit number, the fact that it's Forage Beef 2017 study, and you'll need to write in the NAMS ID. We should be providing you with one of these pens, and you would just want to write in the NAMS ID. It's probably best if you do this before you come out. It'll be typically the first 2 digits are the state, and you know the next 4 are the NAMS ID number. And then you'll want to mix up the sample and make sure it's thoroughly mixed. It's also good to have gloves to do this. And the 5-gallon bucket makes it, if it's windy, the wind's not going to pick it up near as easily in a bucket this size. And when you get it thoroughly mixed, then put a couple handfuls in the bag. Get as much air out as you can and seal the bag. And then this will go in a Tyvek envelope that it will already be pre-addressed to the Dairy One lab in Ithaca, New York. So you'll put the bag in, or we'll have an air bill for you that'll have the Dairy One's address on it. And you put that on the envelope and put it in, it'll be going to FedEx. It'll be in a FedEx envelope, so it'll go FedEx. Then you put it in the mail and it'll be delivered to the Dairy One lab. This doesn't need any refrigeration. It can just go straight in the envelope and be mailed. If you can't get it out that day, you can mail it the next day, and this doesn't need to be refrigerated overnight. I forgot to mention one thing, that I mentioned that some of the bales will have a plastic wrap around the covered surface. If you encounter bales that are completely wrapped, usually those will be in white plastic wrapping. Those are, that's baleage or haylage, and we're not including that as part of the study because those samples would need to be handled differently when they're shipped to the lab. Those would need to be put in a refrigerator or freezer overnight, and so we're not going to include those. We're only including hay samples as part of the study. Okay, and next we're going to go over and see how to do a large square bale. Okay, now I want to show you how to do a large square bale. These are large square bales. You can see the outline of the bale is here. And on square bales, you want to sample from the end, from like here. You don't want to sample from the sides. You want to do it from the end. And small square bales are the same as large square bales in that you sample from the end, like this. And one of the things I forgot to mention over there doing round bales is that you should only be sampling what you can safely get to. Some bales are going to be tucked behind others and you won't be able to get to them. And in this stack of bales, I wouldn't sample anything higher than about 3 high because it wouldn't be safe to do anything else other than that. So to do a large square bale, it's similar to the others. You attach the probe to the drill, make sure it's in the forward position. Reverse the drill and do the same thing. Since I'm only doing one sample here, I'm not going to empty it into a pail. I mainly just wanted to do that just to show you how sampling large bales is different from or how square bales are different from round bales as to how you sample them. That's all that I had on taking a forage sample.